high-profile cases?
Let's start with the final this morning. Don't bend the laws. Justice Doche warns as One Ghana movement seeks justice for June 3 victims. Hajj services have been enhanced. The Vice President talking there. And also in the case of the captain who was killed, 38 men and 4 women detained. The Finder has a story, sickening greed-dominated Mahama government. That's according to Mr. J.J. Rawlings. And the Daily Guide says, Mahama's presidential cards ready. NDC lost over greed and corruption. That's Mr. Rawlings there again. Today says, Rawlings fires Mahama over lame horse excuse for NDC's defeat. Bring investment home. President tax new ambassadors and flaws in government's approach to agriculture. The AGI is talking there. The Daily Graphic moves to arrest Captain Mahama's murderers. 10 more suspects grabbed, including a 12-year-old boy. That's the story. The President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, is in Monrovia for ECOWAS heads session. The Business Day has assemblies caught in lazy property tax collection. And then Ghanaian Times abolished Ghana School of Law. That's Professor Atuguba, Dr. Atuguba there talking. And the story of Captain Mahama's murder, 8 more arrested. That's the Ghanaian Times. Now, my guest this month to do the talking to my extreme left is a member of the NPP and member of parliament for the Futu constituency, Alexander Afenyo-Makin. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Hope your weekend was great.
Well, we had a very long weekend, I should put it, because of political activities. You never get to rest.
Okay. That's your call. All right. We're grateful for your time this morning. And a member of the NDC, Felix Kwakiofosu, is to my left. Good morning to you, and hope you also had a good weekend.
Oh, yes, it was a restful weekend.
All right. Just 2 minutes. Your words for these BC young ones who are writing before we move into other issues. Alex, let me begin with you.
Well, I would wish them well. They shouldn't panic. They are just going to answer questions that they've already been taught. I remember our time when we were going to do BEC, we were wondering whether the questions were going to come from the very curriculum that we had gone through and all that. It's nothing strange. So they should keep up the confidence. Of course, they should avoid all forms of cheating, because if you do not act well and your paper is cancelled, or your personal conduct is likely to even affect all others in the very examination hall that you get yourself entangled in an examination malpractices. So they should be careful and believe that whatever industry that has gone into their studies would manifest eventually when the results come.
All right.
So I can wish them. I would wish them well. For me, I'm going to Winneba to talk to our young ones.
Candidates.
Yes, those writing.
All right. Okay.
Their exams.
All right. Great, Felix.
Well, it's been nearly 2 decades since I wrote my BEC, so I can appreciate what the candidates will be going through now. But like Alex said, once they are prepared over the period, there's no need for them to panic. They should simply abide by the rules and ensure that they give off their best, and their efforts will be rewarded with success. So I can only wish them well.
All right.
as they go through.
Grateful. And we wish them well to be with them in the course of the week. But let's start another conversation with the Ghanaian Times this morning. Rawlings explains NDC 2016 defeat. The story from Clefe Kufu from WA says that it was more than a homecoming event for members of the June 4 movement, as hundreds of cadres converged at the Upper West Regional Capital WA to participate in the June 4th anniversary under the theme Restoring the Values of Probity, Accountability and Truth in Contemporary Governance. That was the theme, and Mr. Rawlings spoke a lot. One key thing is that he used the occasion to explain the NDC defeat. Former President Rawlings, according to the paper, castigated the Mahama-led NDC government for supervising a government of sickening greed. He dismissed the view offered by his party's 2016 candidate, for the party's defeat. Now, he said the NDC he led into the 2016 elections was a lame horse, but former President Rawlings indicated that the disgraceful failure of 2016 was because the leadership of the party lost the values of June 4th. He went on and on and on. According to him, corruption of the generals he executed pales considerably when compared to the corruption that engulfed the NDC government with official endorsement. And again, he said that under the past NDC government, some officials amassed wealth and used money as a political weapon to become kingmakers. On and on and on, he spoke at that function there. Let me start with you, Felix. The former president attempt, that's former President Mohammed's attempts at diagnosing what led the NDC into defeat. And he says the party went to the elections as a lame horse. And this, Mr. Rawlings says, it's not the truth. Is he right?
Well, I'm not sure that the assertion that President Mahama said we went into the elections with a lame horse is entirely accurate. When he used the lame horse expression, he was referring to the current state of the NDC, having just come out of an electoral defeat. It was always going to be the case that there will be some difficulties detected. And he was of the view that rather than resorting to a blame game and seeking to single out individuals and hold them accountable for the defeat, it was important that we work together collectively to ensure that we put the party on an even keel and strengthen it and do the necessary reorganization and remobilization to position us to recapture power in 2012.
2020.
2020, I beg your pardon. He then went on to accept ultimate responsibility, which should be the case whenever a group like that does not achieve its objectives. So that was the context within which President Mahama spoke. Therefore, for anybody to say that the president had attributed our defeat to a lame horse is not entirely accurate. You see, given that the NDC is an organization with mass following, it is not unusual that different perspectives will be held by members, even if they are very high-ranking members, as to why we lost. Now, it is to ensure that all of us have a common appreciation and understanding of the issues that went into our defeat, that the party set up a committee, the Asiedu-Dartey committee, which should, as I speak, be wrapping up its activities with a view to presenting a report. It is important to adopt a scientific approach because, you see, you can sit at home and do your own diagnosis, but if you are not careful, you may misdiagnose what the actual problem is. So it is always better to do a diligent job and go to the people, go to the grounds, and ascertain what factors may have accounted for the loss that we suffered. Now, even those who won the elections, the MPP, about 2-3 weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken, have set up a committee to review their performance with a view to improving upon it in any future election. So those of us who lost are certainly bound to carry out that introspection.
I hope you're not suggesting that Mr. Rawlings it doesn't have what it takes to diagnose what.
No, the point I'm making is that
how
the
NDC went into.
It is always preferable to use scientific means to understand what has happened. We are an organization, and we ought to operate as one. You cannot just divine a reason for why we lost. Over 14 million Ghanaians were eligible to vote, if I'm not mistaken. About 12 to 13 million of them turned out to vote. Each of those individuals would have had a reason for casting a ballot one way or the other. It is not possible for us.
The cadres behind him, and so he's been talking to them.
No, the point I'm making is that, you see, it's important we adopt a holistic and scientific approach. I can sit here and say that I am giving reasons why we lost. Another person may hold a contrary view. But for us as a party to have
Felix,
a common ground, we need to have an approach.
Let me ask you this. Are you suggesting that Mr. Rawlings is not in touch with the grassroots of the party?
I have not suggested anything of the sort. But we are a party of millions of members. Each of those members has a right to think a certain way about why we lost. But we cannot operate on the basis of disparate views. We have to have a collection or a collation of those views and distill them and take away those that we believe can work for us going forward.
You won the party in Cape Coast. You didn't take it.
Well, I'm not certain. It's important that you appreciate the point that I'm making. To begin with, it would be erroneous for anybody to think that internal difficulties in a party can necessarily result in the sort of defeat that we suffered at the elections. Indeed, if internal dynamics, internal cohesion were ever a reason why a party lost an election, the NPP would never be in power today. Because the truth is that going into the elections, they had the most fragmented front, and yet they won. They had very serious internal challenges. Some of it verged on violence. We all saw it playing out in the full glare of the Ghanaian public. What that tells you is that people took into account their personal circumstances. And over the world, that is what has often accounted for people's electoral decisions. And we can pick all the issues one by one and look at them. Of course, issues of organization, issues of lapses in campaign strategy, or some other decisions may have also contributed. But mostly, it was about people's personal circumstances, what they thought was in it for them.
Is it not true that your rank and file felt that government appointees were corrupt?
Again, what is the basis of that assertion? You see, it is easy to fall victim to opposition propaganda and call people corrupt. The real challenge comes when you are held to strict proof. So the mere fact that you read in the newspapers that some allegation has been leveled against some government official does not mean that that government official is corrupt. The only time that you prove that an official is corrupt is when you've taken that official through due process, adduced evidence, and have that evidence upheld by a court of competent jurisdiction.
Can you
anything beyond that is mere speculation?
Can you honestly say that money given to officials of the party for the elections went to the ground?
Well, first of all, anybody holding such a view that money is given to officials did not go to the ground would have to bring forward the evidence. It is for that reason that we've set up a committee.
You don't have any evidence yourself.
As I sit here, I cannot, off the top of my head, level any allegation against any official because I do not have that evidence. And I don't think that it is in the interest of our party for us to conduct our internal affairs in that manner. It is true that there are some who have gone out to say a few things. But you see, I'm not going to stand outside my house and lob in a grenade simply because there is some infraction or there's some argument in that house. I prefer that we use internal mechanisms to address whatever differences exist. But those differences can be addressed only when they have been ascertained in a factual, dispassionate manner, instead of simply shouting over the tops of each other and accusing ourselves of wrongdoing when, in fact, no evidence has been adduced. So yes, let us have the introspection, but let us have it in a proper scientific manner. Then following from that, we can draw lessons and adopt strategies that would ensure that we win subsequent elections. That is how it has to be done in any organization.
I see. I'm grateful. Alex, Mr. Rawlings' diagnosis that greed and corruption led to the fall of the NDC. Perhaps you would argue that he's hit the nail right on the head.
Well, Mr. Rawlings has been consistent with respect to how he feels about his party and its conduct in government. He's been expressing these sentiments since 2009. What has surprised many is the new twist, which is to say that what happened for the last 4 years was far, far, far worse than what triggered June 4th. To me, that is what analysts will be surprised at. That really, so in another breath, the man is conceding that in fact, what justified June 4th was not as worse as what his own entity he created has come to do against the state. So that to me was the gravamen of his submission. Again, it doesn't come to me as a surprise that Felix this morning is making submissions in total disagreement with what President Rawlings has said. In fact, you put a question to him. Is he saying that President Rawlings is not on the ground? He couldn't really address that. But it all boils down to the power struggle. We have a former president who has clearly indicated that he wants to have another bite at the presidency. He still wants to come back. He thinks.
How has he clearly indicated?
Oh, it's pretty obvious. It's pretty obvious.
So he has not indicated, but it's obvious.
Well, yes, through his own conduct, it's obvious that he wants to come back. His former appointees have clearly also stated so without any ambiguity that they think that President Mahama is a better person. He stands tall among all those who want to. So it is a matter of power struggle. He has come out with the lame horse principle. He is now saying that, look, it wasn't so, but it was greed and corruption. Now, Felix says that, look, let's take collective responsibility. And once again, coming from him, because not too long ago, Felix felt that Akufo-Addo was responsible for our 2008 and 2012 defeat, and that he should take responsibility, and we had a bad candidate and all that. But today, he says that they are collective. Yes, he's a politician. The only way they can survive is to take collective blame and then move on. I believe that the NDC can survive this. It's a mass party, and with all these misunderstandings and whatnot, I know eventually they will find a way of resolving their matter. That wouldn't take our attention. We as MPP, we thank God we've gotten power. We have a blueprint. Our job is to roll them out so that come 2020, Ghanaians generally will see that, oh, yes, we've improved a lot. Oh, at least the systems have improved. There's a new direction. Like he said, people vote based on their personal circumstances. Okay? So once people see that, look, at least there's a change in the minimum, they are likely to give you another opportunity. We are not going to waste our time on them like they did, and they lost focus. Again, what I strongly disagree with him is his assertion that, oh, we had serious internal wranglings, but
you
we
mean
still...
the MPP?
Yes, MPP. DS was worse, except that because they had power, people could not voice them out. And you remember that on one of those occasions that he and I had heated debates on your platform, I had told him that from what I was hearing at the grassroots, even in Winneba, the NDC had a far worse situation than ours, except that because they were in government, people were not ready to rock the boat openly. But I could see that come election day, they were going to express those sentiments. So whereas in our case, our people were venting out and we were taking corrective measures, and at least we got to know who and who did not like the flag bearer, or who and who did not really wanted us to win. So we could address them, or we could take corrective measures. We could know that, oh, at least this man, if I place him at the polling station, he wouldn't help my cause. So let me, find a solution. They did not get that opportunity. So he should not think, he shouldn't still think that MPP had a worse of situation internally. That is another big mistake. Theirs was worse. Ours, people expressed same, were able to know that, oh, discipline this person or take preemptive measures and move on. They could not. So at the end of the day, the people that they expected them to do certain, that is why today they are saying that money did not go to the right quarters. I'm not here to say what I know about their party, but they themselves know that monies that were supposed to go to certain people to do certain work never got there. Okay? So at the end of the day, they've lost. We were able to better mobilize because people generally desired change and they wanted to work hard, and the little resources that they got, they were able to utilize same, and we got the result. We now have power. We are focusing on it. The president is working. The whole government machinery, is working, and we're very, very optimistic that come 2020, we would have delivered on our promises. We have started. The free SHS, the one district, one factory, everything is being rolled out, and they will see the dividend thereafter.
I see. How is your own party guarding against becoming greedy and corrupt? Because that's really what has been the change factor since 92. Every party that has lost election is said to have been corrupt.
Well, it's a matter of pinching yourself and drawing your own attention to certain realities. I believe that as a party, like you said, it's not our first time of coming to power. We've lost elections before. We've set up a committee to even look at what went through the elections and address areas of weakness. Well, as a government, you know that the Nana Addo government campaign on an anti-corruption mantra, and having assumed the reins of governance, I'm not too sure that the party would forget where it's coming from. But don't let us also lose sight of the fact that once you are in government, there is also a general perception. And such general perception would be thrown at you by the opposition. You can't take it away from opposition. And for opposition, once they are
Does it always come from the opposition?
Oh, of course. I mean, it would always be triggered by the opposition.
You don't think civil society can trigger that too?
Oh, well, that is a possibility, but generally, most of the times, like the current imaginary conflict of interest, where a government has successfully issued out bonds, and you have an opposition coming out to say that, oh, there is a relational matter, and let's draw the link, and then somebody is a director somewhere. This is clear mischief, an imaginary attack on somebody's reputation. That is one example.
Marty said some of the president appointees are corrupt. Is he wrong or right?
With the greatest respect, I am not in a position to concur and to say that he should point out that Kojo Mensah, Kwame Atta, Adwa Mensima, and co are corrupt.
Do you know if the president has asked him to point out those who are corrupt?
Come on, Bright. I mean, this is way low. How can I answer?
I'm only asking if
right.
you know. Since you're suggesting that he should point to that. I'm
not suggesting so. The man who made that statement did not go the extra mile to point out.
And I'm asking if you know if the president has asked him to.
Come on. You can't ask me this, Bright, with the greatest respect.
You won't answer it.
Bright, you know you can ask me.
I can ask you, but you're saying that you won't answer.
Bright, you yourself, you know.
But I've asked
you. You know that you've not put your question right.
No.
Bright, you yourself, you know, put it right, and I'll answer you. Put the question right. You know you've not put it right.
Has the president asked Professor Marty to provide the names of those who are corrupt?
Right. Put it right.
Okay, well, Alex, I know Alex doesn't want to answer.
Is it for me?
You know you've not put it right.
You see, there are a few home truths that need to be driven. Alex cannot deny the existence of a major internal dispute in the MPP. That is not denial.
Oh, no, he has not
you
denied.
See his madness.
Let me make the point.
You see his madness.
Alex, please don't.
You are quickly shifting.
Alex, don't start. I'm coming back. I'm coming back to the ground issue.
Alex,
please don't start this. Don't start this.
Alex, please.
Don't start this.
You allow
Felix. Let us. We've had a very nice conversation this morning. Look, you see, he cannot deny the existence of a major dispute within the MPP. It played out openly. We saw party members fighting among themselves in the MPP. People lost their lives. People were maimed. Properties were destroyed. Allegations and counter-allegations were made. Alex cannot deny that.
He said you had to.
The point is that we in the NDC did not have a disagreement to the level that the MPP had it. Look, there's no human institution that doesn't have disagreements. Subsequent to our loss, you've heard a few members of the NDC speak publicly about what they consider to be their grievance. You've heard them. At a point, it ended. It never degenerated into the fisticuffs that we saw in the MPP. So there will always be disagreement in any organization. But the level to which the MPP took it is unprecedented. Therefore, for Alex to say that in the run-up to the elections, we had deeper internal difficulties than they did is simply not accurate on the basis of the evidence. The other point, too, that I wish to make is that, you see, President Akufo-Addo himself, during the campaigns, is on record to have stated that no party is guaranteed a second term, especially if they do not perform to the satisfaction of the electorate. It is still early days yet. We've crossed half of their first year in office. The signs do not show that they will live up to expectation.
That's according to you.
Already, they are unable to have a handle on the country's security situation. The president has shown himself incapable of dealing with any form of wrongdoing so long as it is perpetrated by NPP people. It is clear. On the economy, there's been no significant change in the fortunes of the Ghanaian. Indeed, the promise that they made relating to the economy, the claim that they will reduce fuel prices, the promise that they will reduce utility prices, the promise that they will bring down hardships and give relief to Ghanaians have simply not materialized.
You think there can be a significant change in 5 months?
But the point is that the president, when he was campaigning, said that he would immediately reduce the price of fuel and the price of electricity. I didn't put those words in his mouth. He also did not tell us that he would do it in 4 years. He said immediately. Because when you accuse a government that you replace of piling on hardships for the Ghanaian, and you promise to do something about it immediately, it must reflect in your very first move as a government. Again, he speaks about corruption and seeks to parry the issues that the minority has raised about the bond. It is clear that there was conflict of interest. The finance minister owns an organization.
It is being investigated.
Of course, it is being investigated.
Right.
Why is there an investigation?
Clear.
Because we have raised substantive issues regarding what we believe to be wrongdoing in the way that even the issue of concentration risk, the very fact that you've given 95% of a bond to one organization poses a major risk to you. What that means is that the day that the organization decides to call back their investments, this whole economy can tumble. And indeed, Alex can investigate. You should look at what happened between 2007 and 2008 when the cedi started declining. It was because investors who had invested in government securities like this one withdrew their investments and the cedi tumbled. That time, there were multiple investors. They didn't have the sort of concentration rates that they have now. Now, one entity has 95%. So if that entity decides for any reason to withdraw that investment, our economy is going to face a cataclysmic decline. So and that is the point that it's a caution. So even economically, it is not the most prudent thing to do. And then there are the issues of the conflict of interest and corruption and what have you. So if I were to sum up, I will tell you that it is not unusual for a party to lose elections. Indeed, the elections, the results that were the NDC obtained in the 2016 elections are not the worst in this country's history. The worst defeat was suffered by President Kufuor in 1996. Indeed, President Rawlings was the one who walloped him at the polls. He got about 38% of the votes. We got 44.4%.
That's 1996.
1996. But within a matter of 4 years, President Kufuor had regrouped, re-strategized, reorganized, and was able to beat the candidate of an incumbent party, Professor Mills. He beat him again in 2004, until Professor Mills finally beat Nana Akufo-Addo in 2008. And mind you, President Rawlings was making the same allegations against Nana Akufo-Addo. In fact, let me read to you this important passage as the final
Alex will come in and
you see, the same allegations that Alex seems to concur with President Rawlings on, he made against the MPP. This is President Rawlings taking a lob at the MPP. He says, the MPP are bringing a thief to take over from another thief. He said, referring to Nana Akufo-Addo and President Kufuor, and added that there was no difference between the two. Quote, the MPP leaders are a bunch of thieves. They are greedy and very selfish. They have looted the national coffers and see how they are shamelessly flaunting their wealth around in the midst of humiliating conditions of the majority of people. So these allegations...
This is Mr. Rawlings.
This is Mr. Rawlings. On January 10th, 2008, it was published by the Daily Guide, which is an MPP tabloid. So I'm not misquoting him. So these allegations are long-standing. They are not new. I'm not sure that it will be the last time that we hear of such things. But the most important thing for any party that loses an election is to reorganize. And we are doing the same through a very scientific process.
Alex.
Right.
Yes.
Good strategy, but to what end? Cost 90 by Felix. A strategy to divert, bring in NPP, and still remain in a state of self-denial. You see, this posture will not change, and I don't expect you to change. You have a party, and I insist that, look, they had the worst form of crisis in their own party. But the NDC would always refuse to admit what their own problem is. Let me give you an example. Last Friday, the Vice President of the Republic, Dr. Bawumia, was in Winneba, all right? I had entered into an arrangement with Silver Star, and 20 Mitsubishi, 20 cars, Suzuki, were given out for taxi drivers. So we launched it, plus industrial machines for those seamstresses to also get a business going. You know what? The NDC in Winneba, they have their own crisis. But quickly, they said, okay, let them throw out a propaganda that, oh, the MP has gone to buy and has added his profit. And on radio, attacking a good initiative like that. This is NDC. Their own chairman called in and said, look, you should stop that attack. We have problems. Let's deal with our problems. Why go to a government that has just come and the MP has gone to guarantee 20 brand new tier rubber taxis to benefit taxi drivers? People have seen the effect in industrial machines for people to work and generate income, creating jobs. Rather than attacking this initiative, deal with your own internal problems.
That's your point.
That is what Felix is doing this morning. That you are forgetting about your own problems. And you think that by attacking MPP and saying that, oh, I thought you wanted.
But when you know the one who said you didn't have any.
No, Felix,
I thought you wanted
to wrap up so that we'll move to the second topic. We're already hitting 40.
Agreed.
This was the same posture. Maybe you better play back all the debate we had 2013, 2014, 2015. A new government has come. We just approved our budget. Ministers have just been put in place. DCs have just been confirmed. Government is yet to, even we are yet to enact certain laws to help roll out some of the very laudable initiatives. You come and sit here and you still think that MPP will fail. And you still think that you are coming back with President Mahama. And there is a state of insecurity. Are you really serious about all these submissions? I'm disappointed. Your founder has consistently been telling you that, look, you're going to hit a rock. You're going to fail. The ship is going to sink. Please deal with it. In Cape Coast, when they went to Cape Coast to launch their manifesto or to launch their campaign, the whole period, they could not even talk about their green book. The green book that they use state resources to print, and the white book from the First Lady that they use state resources to also print. Without
these are allegations.
The First Lady has never used state resources to print any book.
Very well.
Book was an official government publication. State resources are used. So there's nothing wrong with it. Same way you use government resources to print your so far so good book.
Felix,
maybe I should have brought it here.
You know, this morning,
you
said that I shouldn't. And in fact, I felt bad interrupting you.
Go ahead.
And now you see.
I only wanted to correct.
Alex, please.
What correction?
Yeah.
Right and rebut.
No problem.
Okay.
No problem.
The First Lady had a white book. But you are telling us that
it was financed by her office, the NGO that she runs. That's all. Everybody knows it.
No, you are now telling us.
Oh, okay. You
right.
know this.
So in spite of the existence, now let me put it right. Let me put it in another form.
Quickly.
In spite of the white book and the green book, you were just attacking Nanado that whole period. And Rollins told you that he would only go around talking after the elections. He knew what he was saying at the time. Today, because you want to bring back President Mahama as your candidate, again, you are now disputing the very reality of issues. You are disputing it. You are now saying that Rollins is wrong. You are now shifting the blame, but you've forgotten that President Mahama himself, in talking about the lame horse thing, was doing blame game.
Okay. Alex, I'm grateful. Let's move to the Daily Guide this morning. The specialized, this is Fortunalimi's story. The specialized vehicles ordered by former President John Mahama before exiting office and meant to be used by the incoming NPP administration are ready in Dubai. Now, the new cars were to beef up the presidential fleet and were ordered a few days to the handing over of power to President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Per the contractual terms, the vehicles were to be delivered within 60 days, after which payment will be made. However, the delivery of the vehicles had run into difficulties because some unresolved issues, including the indefinite moratorium placed on the acquisition of new vehicles by the Akufo-Addo regime. But with the valid contract between the importing company Amalgamated Security Services Limited and the state Ghana government may be slapped with huge judgment debt if it goes ahead to abrogate the contract entered into on January 3, 2017. We're told the contract is worth about $9 million. 55 vehicles were involved, and it was for the president, the vice president, the first lady, the presidential press corps, and the medical team. So, Alex, we are in a kind of a fix here. The vehicles are ready. There's a moratorium on new vehicles, and so we seem to be in a state of what to do. Is that not the situation?
Right. Before I specifically address that issue, I think that as a country, we would have to go back and review our transitional laws and ask so many questions. To me, the fact that we have a transitional act which says that a month to election, there must be handing over notes prepared by various appointees, and that even you should also indicate the progress of what to be done after the period.
All the way to handing over.
Is sufficient indication of what that enactment intends. To say that, look, if you intend, at least disclose that to the incoming government, especially when it's not from the same, it's not, the transition is not for the same party, but it's from one party to the other. Again, I concede that when you are elected as president, your tenure ends midnight of 6th of January. So you are still the chief executive, commander-in-chief, and you can take all decisions. But after you've lost an election, or after an election and you know that there's a new person coming to succeed you, it's time to reason that you should engage such a person, so that the person is not met with surprises. After the election, you know that, oh, these are the things that you intend doing, or these are the things that you are going to do from this period up to the 6th of January. What is your view? You discuss and you agree. But unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be the case. Unfortunately, even after 28th of December, the Chief of Staff's office has still not done the handing over for the office of the president after 28th of December. So it tells you that we have some issues to still deal with. I don't want to be political or partisan. I'm looking at the national interest. Because look, MPP will certainly go into opposition one day. MPP will lose an election one day. We'll not be in power forever. I mean, certainly we can't be in power forever. But we need to put the necessary support systems in place. Say that tomorrow, what is happening today will not, happen again. So we need to look at our laws, the Transitional Act, and make sure that we comply, we live with it. Back to this, yes. A new government with its own policy. Look, that austerity measures, I don't intend procuring new vehicles, at least for now. But these are vehicles that have already been procured. The former government ordered same, and they are to come. There is no government, official government statement on this as to whether the contract will be abrogated or not. But it should also not be something out of place should the government seek a review of the terms of the agreement. Should government seek a review of the terms of the agreement, it shouldn't be out of place. Let's wait and see how government deals with this matter. But generally put, most of the decisions, like the recruitment into the public service, at one point I had to call one head of a state institution to say that, say, you know you've lost it. I've heard that you are doing recruitment and people are coming from your hometown. You are calling party people. This is the evidence. I gave him names. He was surprised. And you are called after 5 p.m. they come to your office. I don't want to mention the name of that state institution because it's a security agency. After 5 p.m. were the times that they gave to those party boys to come to the office to fill certain forms and backdate same. All right? After you've lost elections. Why do you do all these things? And when government tries to even regularize some of these irregular recruitment, they say, oh, they are dismissing people from the public service. But these things were hurriedly done, irregularly done. People who did not qualify, people who did not have the certificate because they were projecting, looking into the future that, okay, we've lost election. But all is not lost. Our people were complaining. Let's quickly recruit them, push them in, so that at least come 2020, we will have our men. This was a strategy. And no NDC person should deny this. That they did not deliberately put people into the public service after the election.
Alex,
without looking at whether or not they are qualified. And the mode. And I challenge them. If there is any committee to investigate these things, and I am called upon, at least the evidence I have, that one state institution, I would be ready to testify and confront the head, because at least I gave that head of institution names. And I went to his office to say, sir, this is just wrong.
Because the head is in here, I wouldn't want us
to... No, that's why I have not mentioned the name.
But Alex...
No, that is why I have not mentioned the name. And that is why I have not even mentioned the head of that
vehicle issued now?
So then this should not play that ostrich game and be pretending you did the wrong things.
Right.
Just admit it.
Isn't this issue messy because of the moratorium placed on acquiring new cars? Because
if you put it that way, government has not made an official pronouncement on this matter. I mean, on whether or not to go ahead with this procurement or to review. We've not heard anything from government.
Right.
Don't let us make any mistake. Government hasn't spoken.
But what we
have rather a disclosure.
Alex,
right. With respect.
What we have heard of is that the presidential fleet is not in good shape, to the extent that this paper says that the president uses a 10-year-old BMW, which occasionally breaks down with high servicing costs. In fact, it mentions 2 trips to Ebri and some other place that the president vehicle broke down.
Right.
So
right. Government
if we have this situation of the presidential fleet, shouldn't we have new ones?
Right. Government hasn't spoken. You've not heard from government on these matters.
I know.
Yes.
But I'm saying that what we have heard from government is the fact that the fleet of cars there are not in good condition.
Put it again. You are saying that what you have heard from government...
Government has not spoken on the acquisition of these new cars. But what we have heard from government is that the vehicles that are in the presidential fleet are in poor state.
When was this?
Well, Eugene Ahin has said several times that the president uses his own old BMW. The story is suggesting that on his way to Peduaso Lodge, the president's vehicle broke down. The driver had to reduce the speed limit and several others. That we have heard. Now, if this is what we have heard, if this is what we have heard, isn't it right for us to get new vehicles?
Right. We are having a discussion. We must set the parameters right, rather than to speculate and argue. You were quoting Eugene Ahin. Did you say that Eugene Ahin has put it out that the presidential fleet is not in good state?
He said it.
That's not what you just quoted. You rather said that Eugene Ahin had said that the president has been using his own personal BMW.
Because the vehicle is not in good shape?
Yeah, I mean, that is what... So that's a different matter. If you say that Eugene says that president uses his own vehicle, which is not in good shape, that's different from Eugene saying that presidential fleet is not in good shape.
The president is using his vehicle because
that is what
the presidential fleet is not in good shape.
Right. I would only simply put it that, look,
there is no
official pronouncement
on this
from government on this matter. Be that as it may, government has a right to review any procurement arrangement that pre-existed and to look for better terms for the state.
Okay. Alex, I'm grateful. Felix, so the situation is that government is yet to make pronouncement on the procurement of new cars.
You see, right? Don't worry yourself. You see, don't worry yourself. given the proximity of the Daily Guide to the new Patriotic Party, indeed, only last week, Friday, the former publisher of the Daily Guide, Mrs. Ginabley, was sworn in as ambassador to Germany. No, I'm making a point.
Has nothing to
this
do
one
with,
has, you see, this story
about.
has all the trappings of an effort to prepare the minds of Ghanaians to receive these cars eventually. That is what that is doing. Because when you read the story, there's a classic case where you say they have written something, but they've said nothing. All they've said is that cars have been imported for the use of President Akufo-Addo, and that they are ready to be brought in. That's all that the story says.
No.
But you see,
no.
Oh, Alex, please, I hope that
no,
you allow me to
Alex,
speak.
you allow him
yes,
to
it's
go.
true. It's true.
Look,
But at least just
stop it. I'm making a point.
It's okay. It's okay. But
it is true that
you know that what you are saying.
It is. Oh, it is. I'll explain what I mean. You see, even the absence of a definite government pronouncement on the matter is telling. What they have done is to leak information to sections of the media that some cars have been imported and they are ready to be airlifted. However, they either did not brief the journalists they gave the story to properly, or the journalists themselves were ignorant. And so they presented the story as though it was another example of wrongdoing or corruption on the part of the Mahama administration. That is how it came out.
Explain it.
What I'm going to explain to you is this. You see, during the transition process, it became evident that there was a need to renew parts of the presidential fleet, because what President Mahama used at the time had been used extensively. And these are high-performance vehicles. And I'm sure you've seen the presidential convoy ply our streets and the speed at which they run. So you require very robust vehicles periodically to be able to keep up with the sort of work that has to be done in conveying the president and other high-ranking government officials. So in order that we renew this fleet and allow President Akufo-Addo an opportunity to have the right kind of equipment in terms of transportation to use for his work, consultations began between the NDC side of the transition team and the MPP side. Right, I am aware of the existence of documentation in which the MPP side convey their agreement for the purchase of these vehicles. That aside,
You are aware of a document like that?
That aside, I'm also aware of very high-level consultations between the national security as composed at the time and the security representatives of President Akufo-Addo, so that these vehicles will be bought. It was on the basis of that agreement and understanding.
And such a decision only came up after the elections.
Please, you are not listening to me.
No.
Look, President, look. Please,
Alex,
Bryce, are you paying
let me
attention?
make
Alex,
my point.
you
Please.
allow him.
That you never
Yes,
knew
that is
the
it.
fleet.
You see,
Alex,
the fleet is renewed periodically. But President Akufo-Addo could only have been in a position to be consulted after he had been elected.
So he was not consulted. That's
He
the
was
point.
consulted. That's the point I'm
On
making.
this one.
His representatives on the transition team.
At what point
His
did you
security.
decide to buy
Oh,
the
Alex, you are not listening to me. I'm making the point that President Akufo-Addo, if he had not been elected in December, he would not have been in a position to be consulted on anything.
Would you have bought those vehicles?
Yes. Why
Are
not?
you sure?
If it is necessary and it is determined that the president needs a new
Right,
fleet,
you
it will
see.
be bought. Why? Let me tell you something. On the day that President Mills was declared winner of the 2008 elections, that very day, President Kufuor sent him 2 armored vehicles. 2. The very day he was declared winner, on 31st December 2008. So it is not new. It is not a new practice. The only problem we have is that we have a party that has come into government that is still behaving as if it was the opposition. They have an excessive love for propaganda. Okay? They must paint the NDC black at all costs. So even in instances where clear agreement has been reached and security protocols are being put in place for the benefit of the same administration, they twist it in order to give the NDC a bad name. The whole thing about a moratorium on the purchase of cars is not born out of any love for austerity or prudence. It was simply in response to public opprobrium at the high number of ministers that President Akufo-Addo had appointed. People expressed concern that it meant that then we need to acquire vehicles for all this number of ministers. We need to do this for them. We need to do that for them. So in response to that, and in a bid to quell public anger, he hastily announced this moratorium. Before he announced it, some ministries had already procured vehicles for their ministers and other high-ranking officials. These vehicles were procured long before he issued that moratorium. So technically, that moratorium doesn't even affect this one. Again, you mentioned Eugene Ahin's statement. Eugene Ahin came out and told the whole world that the president could not find vehicles to use, for which reason he has been compelled to use a 10-year-old BMW purchased by the Kufuor administration and sometimes rely on his own personal vehicles. In which country does the president use his own vehicles? Look, Donald Trump, he's a billionaire. He owns a plane. He owns a helicopter. But once he became president, he is using a vehicle that was procured by the Obama administration. The Obama administration actually commissioned the construction of a new Air Force One, which will come into operation in 2018, at the long after President Obama has left. So it is not unusual for an exiting government to make arrangements for an incoming administration. Why? Please. I have told you that it was done properly. Listen.
So this worry is how it is done.
But I'm explaining. Look, I'm telling you how it was done. But I'm telling you how it was done. I'm telling you that any claim by you or anybody in the MPP that the MPP side of the transition team was not consulted is completely false. That's why I alerted you to existence of documentation. But you see, ordinarily, we should not be discussing matters like this because this border on security issue. No government that is serious about governance should be discussing matters as sensitive as this. It is for that reason that we in the NDC...
Anyway, it is the daily guide that has written.
Yeah, but the point is that the daily guide did not walk into the votes of government and pick these documents. They were given those documents. And it's not only the daily guide. In fact,
that is an allegation.
In fact, it is not, listen, it is not only the daily guide that has published it. In fact, the story was first published by online portals. And the story was given to them by agents in government because they wanted to achieve a certain objective. And it was to prepare the minds of Ghanaians for the arrival of vehicles, so that when the vehicles finally arrive, people don't point to the moratorium. That you say you will not buy vehicles, yet you are using new vehicles. But the point I'm making is that...
But you had earlier said that they were acquired before...
Absolutely, but you see, that whole... If you read the story, this whole story centers on the moratorium. I have absolutely no difficulty with any president acquiring a new fleet. I believe that any president that is elected must get a new fleet of vehicles because you need to constantly upgrade efforts to enhance the president's security. Because in this day and age, you don't take chances like that. There's nothing wrong with it. It doesn't mean that the president is profligate or ostentatious. It is not this expenditure that will collapse our economy. So this whole attempt by the MPP to prepare the minds of Ghanaians for the arrival of these vehicles and at the same time create an impression that the Mahama administration was involved in some wrongdoing is completely false. Again, he brought in the issue of recruitment. I am strenuously denying the claim he is making that there was any fraud that initiated
officials.
You see, they have a coupist mentality. That means that the moment they win elections, they perceive that to mean that immediately and instantly they have control of the state apparatus, which is not so. Control of the state apparatus is passed on to a new president as and when he is sworn in. Before that happens, Ghana as a country must run regularly. And all arrangements that need to be put in place to ensure that the state machinery runs should go on, irrespective of the elections. Why? In the United States of America.
When we not told we look, then you recruit people after 5 p.m.
Let me make my point. Look, again, stop peddling falsehood. The recruitments that were done.
What they say is
so should I? Let me make my point.
Let me make my point. Whoever is involved is in here.
Look, I am making whoever is involved is in here. So
it is not true.
Come on, but
it is not true.
If I mention it and I want to justify,
please,
you can give him the opportunity.
Alex, please.
Yes. If I'm lying,
please, let me make my point.
Want me to go out after 5 p.m.
Alex, let me make my point.
People line up. I went to see him for myself.
You see, listen.
And you know I wouldn't come here and say things that I don't know.
You let Felix wrap up.
No, Felix.
I'm hitting the topic.
We all know the facts.
I wouldn't.
For 8 years, we had been recruiting people. There's no lawful time limit.
After 6 p.m., you call your party.
So, Alex, why won't you let me make my point? You have come into power. You are engaging in illegality. Fortunately, some of them have mastered courage and sued them. And I hope that the outcome.
Who sued who?
The outcome guides the way that we conduct ourselves in this country. What they have done is to wage a vendetta against innocent Ghanaians, perceiving them to be NDC people. Look,
Alex thinks otherwise.
You see, no, okay.
Let the right thing be done.
Right. You have a situation where young graduates who have finished school, done national service, and secured employment have been dismissed by this Akufo-Addo government. Okay. At a time when they themselves had promised
yes. Alex thinks otherwise. All right, gentlemen, I am grateful. I am grateful.
So 6 p.m.
I am grateful.
So I beg you.
Recruitment
I am grateful.
midnight.
I've hit the top of the hour.
Right, recruitment at midnight.
I am grateful.
Your recruitment at midnight after your elections.
Crimes, sins against these people.
Come on.
It is something that you
midnight
recruitment.
Okay, all right. Gentlemen, I'm grateful.
When you see the new cars on the street, don't be surprised.
I'm grateful. Felix Kwachi-Ofosu is a member of the NDC. Grateful for your Monday morning. Alexander Afenyo-Markin is a member of parliament for the Futu constituency and a member of the NPP. Gentlemen, grateful for your Monday morning and hope to see you some other time. Let's step on the brakes for now. Sports is up next.